Conflicts in relationships. Jesus' wisdom for finding peace. All of us face moments of conflict and challenges that seem insurmountable. At some point, each of us has felt like a boat adrift in a storm, surrounded by uncertainties and fears. Today, let's join the disciples in one of Jesus' most intense lessons on faith and peace amid chaos. The story we're about to explore shows that even in the most turbulent moments, there is a source of serenity and strength. When we turn to Jesus and his wisdom, we find the path to dealing with life's conflicts and storms with calm and confidence. Let's discover together how this transformative lesson can help us find peace, both in the waters around us and within our hearts. Today's story speaks of a moment filled with great fear and doubt. Imagine yourself on a boat, with the wind howling, the sky heavy and dark like coal, cut only by flashes of lightning. The sea, which seemed calm at the beginning of the journey, has now become a battleground of massive waves crashing furiously against the boat. With each jolt, the disciples, terrified, fought frantically to keep their balance, trying to grasp onto anything they could as if their lives depended on it. And, at that moment, they probably did. Their faces reflected despair and exhaustion, muscles tense and eyes wide open, as hope seemed to fade with each new wave. Every thunderclap in the sky felt like an omen that the boat would never reach the shore. The sea seemed to intensify, as if responding to their own fear, and the deafening thunder threatened to crush any trace of faith. And amidst all this chaos, an intriguing contrast arises. Jesus, the Master, the man who performed miracles and healed crowds, was there in the same boat but in a very different place. He wasn't clinging to the sides or crying out in fear. He was asleep. He slept peacefully, indifferent to the violent storm that even challenged the most seasoned fishermen. To the disciples, this peace seemed unattainable, almost surreal. How could Jesus sleep in the midst of a scene of imminent destruction? This detail did not go unnoticed by the disciples, who couldn't understand how anyone could rest while they faced something so deadly. A sense of abandonment began to take over their hearts, and their minds began to question, does he not care? Has he, who performed so many miracles, no compassion for us? Desperation, doubt, and fear grew larger, to the point that one of the disciples, with a trembling voice and overcome by fear, finally yielded to the impulse to wake Jesus. He cried out for help in a tone that revealed not just fear but also bewilderment. "Master, do you not care that we are perishing?" This desperate cry was more than a plea for help. It revealed an internal conflict, a struggle between the desire to trust and the overwhelming fear of not surviving the situation. The disciples looked at each other, sharing expressions of terror and disorientation. Each of them wrestled with an inner wave of uncertainties. It was more than fear. It was a realization of their own vulnerability. They were fishermen, men of the sea, but this storm was different, more intense, more threatening. Even the strongest among them felt the weight of their powerlessness. The wind howled around them, whipping their clothes and tossing the boat from side to side. The waves, towering like walls, made the boat rise and fall, while the cold water hit them, leaving them soaked and trembling, not only from the cold but from a paralyzing fear. Everything around seemed to amplify their despair. What unsettled them the most was the absence of a reaction from Jesus. They had seen Jesus perform miracles, heal the sick, even turn water into wine, but now he seemed indifferent to the impending threat. And that felt inexplicable, almost inconceivable to them. In the midst of the darkness and chaos, the disciples were being confronted with their doubts and weaknesses, and Jesus' silence seemed to increase that sense of abandonment. In contrast to the disciples' despair, Jesus continued to sleep peacefully, as if the turmoil around him were nothing more than a gentle breeze. The serenity on his face was almost unreachable, and his tranquility radiated a peace that felt surreal in such a chaotic setting. Jesus wasn't gripping the sides of the boat, he wasn't afraid, nor did he show any trace of anxiety. While the disciples barely managed to keep their balance, Jesus rested, completely undisturbed. His peaceful presence in the midst of the storm made the disciples wonder, how can he be so calm? That calmness was, at the same time, comforting and unsettling. Comforting because, in some way, they felt he was in control, unsettling because they couldn't understand how it was possible. Jesus' sleep was not a sign of neglect but of absolute trust. His peace was a reflection of his complete faith in the Father. He didn't need to fear, because he knew nothing was beyond God's control. But for the disciples, this peace was still a profound mystery. When one of the disciples finally wakes him, Jesus rises calmly, without hurry, and his gaze is deep and penetrating. He looks at the disciples, and his words are direct. "Why are you so afraid, men of little faith?" There was no reproach in his voice, but rather a question that seemed to go straight to their hearts, questioning the nature of their trust. Those words echoed amid the sound of waves and thunder. The disciples, still breathless, felt the impact of that question. Jesus was asking something deeper than just their fear of the sea. He was questioning the foundation of their faith. He didn't expect them to be fearless, but to remember his presence and the power of God, who was with them. Then, Jesus turns his gaze to the storm, as if in total harmony with nature, like a conductor preparing to lead his orchestra. With a firm gesture, Jesus raises his hands, and his voice sounds powerful, yet calm, as if giving a natural command to the universe. "Be still." He spoke as someone with absolute authority, and his words resonated with an inexplicable force. It was as if each word held the power to shape nature itself. And in that instant, the sea, which had roared like a wild beast, became quiet. The waves, which had until then threatened to consume the boat, lowered themselves, turning into a smooth, glass-like surface. The wind stopped, as if it had exhausted all its fury. The silence that followed was almost as deafening as the storm. The waters were calm, reflecting the clear sky that was now opening above them. The disciples, still catching their breath, fell silent, trying to comprehend what had just happened. The transformation of the sea seemed like a miracle, a visible and concrete response to Jesus' power. That calm was so intense it felt unreal. The contrast between the previous chaos and absolute peace made it clear the power of Jesus was not only over the sea but over everything. This peace, this transformation, was a living testament to who Jesus truly was. The disciples, astonished, looked at each other, as if still unable to believe what their eyes had just witnessed. A nervous whisper arose among them. "Who is this that even the winds and the sea obey him?" That question was more than an expression of awe. It was a recognition of Jesus' divine identity. They realized they were in the presence of someone far beyond a mere teacher or prophet. They were standing before the very Son of God, who had power over all creation and was able to bring peace to chaos. At that moment, the disciples learned a lesson they would never forget. True faith is not about being free from storms, but having the assurance that with Jesus, there is always hope for peace. If you want to learn more about how to apply Jesus' wisdom in your relationships and daily life, subscribe to the channel now and activate the notification bell to receive our upcoming videos. Here, we'll explore together how Jesus' teachings can transform our relationships and bring peace to difficult situations. Each video is made to inspire you to live more lovingly, with greater empathy and understanding, and to find spiritual solutions to the challenges we face every day. I hope you enjoyed this reflection on how to seek peace amid conflicts, following the example and words of Jesus. The peace he offers is not just the absence of problems, but an inner strength that helps us face life's storms with serenity and confidence. In every conflict, Jesus teaches us that it is possible to find a path based on love, understanding, and forgiveness, and that in doing so, we are following his way of true wisdom. If this message touched your heart, take a moment to share this video with your friends, family, and anyone you believe might benefit from this reflection. Sharing is also an act of love, a way of carrying forward Jesus' message and spreading a word of hope and harmony in a world that often seems chaotic. By sharing, you become an instrument of peace and help expand this message of transformation. Remember, this channel is a space for learning, support, and strengthening faith. Together, we can create a community of people committed to practically applying Jesus' teachings, whether in personal relationships, at work, or in any area of life. Each video will bring new insights and ways to put his lessons into practice so that we can live with more purpose, integrity, and love. Thank you very much for watching until the end. May this message inspire and encourage you to bring peace wherever you go, and may Jesus' wisdom illuminate your path in every choice and relationship. Stay with us on this journey of spiritual growth and discovery, where each step is an opportunity to become better and closer to Jesus' teachings. See you in the next video. May divine peace and wisdom be with you and all those around you.